welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being on here. I want to jump right in with your trip. You recently were in India for 6 weeks. That's magical. Tell us about that.
Yeah, definitely. You wanna?
No, you go ahead. You can start off.
Tell us about how you got the time off to do. Tell us the whole thing.
Yeah, if you want to know the whole thing, it really goes back to what we decided to do last year, which is we decided to do a meditative practice called Last Year to Live. And that's based off a book by Stephen Levine, right? That he wrote basically about, what would you do? What would be the questions that you ask in your life? What would be the things that you want to experience, the places you want to go to, the people you want to talk to, if it were your last year to live? And I read this book back in November of 2017, right before I started my business, iMater now, right? And it just lined up that I was like, okay, I'm going to start this new business, and I'm also going to do it as if it's my last year to live. So 2018 for me was, okay, this is it, right? There's nothing beyond that. There's no 2019. There's nothing beyond 2018. And so I was telling Liz about this book as I was reading it, that I really wanted to do that meditative practice. And she was like, you know what, let's do it together. Let's go for it. And so we did, without really knowing 100% what we were getting ourselves into. Because Stephen Levine, he did it in the context of just himself, right? And his journey was just himself. We did it as a married couple, which was very, very interesting. And it ended up culminating in the trip that you asked me about, in relation to going to India for 6 weeks. But I'll stop there and let Liz share, anything that she wants to add to that particular introduction of, what led us to go to India. At the beginning of the year, even halfway through the year, I don't think we knew we were going to India on our last year to live. But
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, not at all. I feel like it wasn't on my radar at all. It was like, one of those places like, it'd be nice to go there. You know what I mean? Like one day I'm curious about that place. But I never actually thought I would go there. And Fernando had just started his business. So he was working from home, and doing all his meetings and all this kind of stuff. And I am a student. I'm a grad student, PhD student at the School of Education at UC Davis. So for me, I'm kind of at home and working from home all the time, right? I have to be on campus maybe once or twice a week, and that's about it. So excuse me, for the rest of the time I'm at home. And as he said, in the beginning of the year, we didn't have any idea that we were going to India. It was more of a challenge for me. I feel like I was actually really tired with the PhD program, and I was very kind of challenged with continuing. By the summertime, by springtime, I had finished my qualifying exams, which means that once you pass that, you can actually carry out your dissertation. And I've been waiting years to do this dissertation project, right? That's the magical thing. That was my passion for coming to, the program and all this kind of stuff. But by the time I got to data collection in the summer of last year, 2018, I was like, okay, I'm feeling all the batteries just draining. Everything was draining, and it was tough to keep going. And I had these conversations with Fernando about, I feel like I'm tired. I don't know if I want to keep going in this program. And mind you, I'm 6 years in. If I leave the program, if I drop out of the program, it's like people could see it as time wasted, right? And we talked about this. It's not time wasted. It's time that I learned something. It's time that I learned some lessons, received a lot of gifts, learned a lot about myself. No one's going to be able to take the education that I learned through those years, right? But I would be walking away without a degree. So I really, really talked about that for the next 3 or 4 months until maybe August, where I was like, okay, hun, I'm taking PELP, which is a Planned Educational Leave program from school. I'm going to just take this semester off, do nothing, and just do nothing and just focus on myself, and that's when this idea of going to India came up, because I was reading Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda. There's a Netflix documentary called Yogananda. That's how I was kind of turned on to the book.
Mhm.
And he's like it's his life journey. So it's all about India, right? He was born there, raised there. His yogihood, in a sense, was there, and then he brought yoga to the West. So I was like, I'm gonna go to India, and I'm gonna go where he went, and I'm gonna, visit those places. It's gonna be so awesome. All of a sudden, there was a spark. This like, I gotta go to India, and it was never on my list, and I never had a bucket list. But like, of all the places I ever thought I wanted to go to in my last year to live meditation practice, that was never it.
Right.
And
Wow.
when she brought it up, I was game. I was like, you know what? Let's do it. In Berkeley, when I started school, okay, I grew up in the LA area. So over there, a lot of Latinos, a lot of folks from Mexican background. Everybody knows, that when they look at me, I'm Latino. But when I went to Berkeley, a lot of people thought that I was Indian, right? And I was like, Liz, let's go. Let's see if I do look like my Indian brothers over there. And I did. And in India, everyone thought, 99% of folks thought I was Indian. I get so many people was like speaking to me in Hindi. It was so funny.
That is funny.
So how does this, last year meditation work? Just can you give us like a brief? I have a friend who's doing that this year.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And I was curious when she told me, and I haven't really dug in. So this will be a fun, now I'll know what the hell she's talking about.
Yeah.
That's so funny. When you say one last year to live, it brings up a lot of emotion and a lot of thoughts about what that means. But I'm curious as to how you approach that in a meditation and how you, pursue that for a whole year. That seems like a lot. Super cool.
It's a big commitment. I mean, especially as a couple, I have to tell you, for me, it was incredibly transformative on several levels. I mean, the first one was I had already practiced gratitude before in my life, right? But I also learned to practice forgiveness every night, right? Gratitude for me was something that I woke up with and I just had in my life. But last year, I was like, you know what? This is my last year to live. I don't want to live with resentment because we had an argument or we had a tiff. I don't want that to carry to the next day. I want to let that go. So I'm forgiving and I'm releasing tonight because that's not carrying over to the next day. I can't have that emotional drain in my last year to live. Does that make sense?
Yes,
absolutely.
I love that.
And so for me, that was something that was really important. And as we got deeper and deeper into the practice and we had less and less time, we literally pushed ourselves to not plan for 2019 at all. People would tell us, oh, hey, do you want to come to this? Or in 2019, we're like, we'll get back to you.
We're dying.
We're not, yeah. Yeah, we're dying. It was tough because sometimes we couldn't just say that, even though we wanted to. Some folks might understand and some folks might not. And this was for our personal growth. And also it turned out to be a really relationship, a really important tool for the communication that we had in our relationship, because we just started having straight up real conversations like we never had before. It's like, yo, I'm dying. You're dying too. We're about to go. Is this what we both want? And that was a key question that kept coming up. Is this what we want in our lives right now? Is this the way that we want to be interacting with each other?
Mm-hmm.
And so it really became a journey of deepening our emotional, I think predominantly,
right,
our emotional bond in the relationship, but also our individual spiritual growth, and then going to India and topping it off with that was really powerful. But it's a constant reminder of death that really, I feel, allows you to just live, and so anytime I had this like fear or self-doubt about doing something, I was like, nope, I don't have any time for that. I see it, I acknowledge it, I appreciate you coming up and trying to take care of me right now, but I just can't be stymied, and so it ended up having this other powerful effect too. I mean, last year I launched my business. Then I launched my podcast. I wrote my book. You know,
Yeah, you had a big ass year.
that was a big ass year. That's right. And you know, I got a lecturer position at Berkeley Law, right? And I mean, that was all super awesome. But I have to tell you, at the end of the year, we both were like, okay, how are we going to appreciate this year? How are we going to end it? And it was
say that.
Say that part.
Yeah, say that.
Okay, so I'll let Liz go, and I'll tell you.
So I'll tell you.
So
like,
pause.
Don't tell the end yet. Like,
okay.
Good job. I like
build
it.
it up because it's important.
Okay. Well, what do you want to share about that part?
So I'll say that for me, the last year to live meditation practice, I always told people it's the last year to live meditation practice, and I would follow that up with, I'm totally in good health, and only God knows when my last day is. Because then I would scare people. Then be like, "What do you mean it's your last year to live? Like,
Right.
Are you sick? Are you, going through something?" I'm like, no. Like, it's just, I'm good health. I'm in good health. God only knows when my last day is, but it's a way that I've chosen to live for this last year, right? I'm doing all the things that I never thought I would do in order for me to just like experience that, right? And I've had like a really big issue with death, like folks that died, in my family when I was younger, like my grandmother, my grandfather, they were or I was really, really close to them, and I never really dealt with their death at all. So I just kind of push it to the side, nor does my family deal with death. I realize that now. I'm like, so they just push it to the side. They cry for those few hours, and then it's basically like, let's go on, So to me, that wasn't appropriate for me, right? And I never realized it. It's fine for them, but so I took this opportunity as like, as I was going into it, I didn't realize that it was like going to be this dramatic, because I was going through and I was like, oh my God, like I'm thinking about death like every day. At first it was like YOLO, you only live once, like, hey, let's go, let's do it. That party, yeah, let's go to that party, that taping, yeah, let's go to that taping because I only have one chance, right? Yeah. But towards the end, or as we went along, it was like, would I do that if I was dying this year?
Right.
Yeah, and that was a constant question. Would I do that if I was dying this year? And the PhD program was not something that I would continue to do if I was dying this year. And what I did want to do and focus on is on getting to know myself, and that's for Fernando. It was his legacy was like doing the book, doing the podcast, and all these things that he really, really wanted to burst out with. And for me, was like going inside. It was the opposite, right? So when you ask like, what is this about? It's about what you make it. I don't think you know what it's going to be until you're faced with it, right? This possibility of, even as a meditation practice, death.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, my mind's kind of blown, so I'm just going to sit. You can say some stuff, Pat. I'm still like absorbing.
It's kind of funny too. I mean,
talk into your microphone. It's over here.
I
can't even hear you, and you're
I woke up this morning. I've been doing some journaling lately, or trying to get back into the habit of it. And the question that popped into my head this morning was just, what if? So I wrote down like 10 different things as the what if. And one of the what ifs that I wrote down this morning, which is super ironic.
It's very timely.
Was, what if today was not Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, but one day?
Mm-hmm.
Today is one day. Now what?
Because you always say, one day I'll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I get it. Okay, one day.
One day I'll go to
I'm
India.
going to do that someday. Or
one day I'll write a book, create a podcast. Right. And so it is so funny that he came up with that this morning. I believe in the universe drops us little hints.
Yeah.
Synchronicity right there.
What would you do different? What experiences would you give yourself? That kind of thing. And it falls right in line with everything you're talking about, which it changes the meaning of this moment when you start thinking like that, right?
Yeah.
In all moments. And if you didn't get to have any more moments.
That was the other question I wrote. One other question I wrote was, what if this moment is also the most important moment? Because you know what I mean? Yeah. Lives and like, it's that one important moment and I blew it or whatever, but every moment's it's just as important as any moment. So
I have to tell you on that point, for me, one of the things that started happening, especially in the second half of our last year to live practice, was I think the first few months it was like adjustment, but then as time started to wind down, there was this ultra presence to life that just happened. It was just, I was present, I was like, and I still practice that, presence to this day, right? Like I'm here, I know we're connecting through this technology, right? And we're talking through the internet, but I'm here. Like I'm nowhere else. And I'm enjoying my time right here, right now. I have a ton of stuff in my calendar for the week, but I'm not there till the time comes for that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No, well, you're preaching the choir kind of, because I really do believe that that kind of presence is the meaning of life / love, everything kind of tied up in there. And somebody that can maintain that 24/7 would be called enlightened, which I don't know anything like that, but
yeah,
we're all
They're out
trying.
there.
We're all trying our best,
Yeah.
Yes.
It's really super easy to get out of being present. Worrying about something you did or worrying about something you're going to do is not being present, of course. And then there's all the chatter that's consistently going on in our heads. So
tell them about that thing that you're like, this is what I learned in India. And you're like, quiet the mind.
Oh,
because I think it's so appropriate. I'm like just whispering out here.
so what she's referring to, like my takeaway lessons, and from going to India, and it was really, we ended up going to a lot of ashrams and listening to talks about the self, about your spirit, your ego, your mind, your body, and the interaction between them, right? And it really is for me about living from your spirit, suspending your ego, quieting your mind, and nourishing your body, right? And so it was like a 6-week study abroad for adults for us, basically. And we were just like absorbing it. We actually got to see the Dalai Lama speak live about anger management. And so what I was going to tell you, can I share the part now?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I was going to tell you earlier was, we wanted to memorialize our last year to live, and we were very somber. We were very nostalgic on December 31st. And what we ended up doing is we wrote our eulogy to that version of ourselves that lived that last year to live. And that version of ourselves died, like in a real way, this is, you're talking to like a reborn version of ourselves, that let go of a lot of stuff, that feels a lot lighter, that lives with ease and joy and excitement, right? Because we weren't necessarily there. And so for us, when we wrote our eulogy, I put on there, I was like, Fernando, he was an attorney and a podcaster, and he did this and that and the other, but that wasn't his greatest accomplishment. His greatest accomplishment was to reduce and almost eliminate frustration, irritability, and impatience from his life. That was the biggest thing for me.
And tell me why. Yeah, you're about to go there. Why was that the most important thing?
Because growing up, the definition of masculinity that I was taught was one that, is like no pain, no gain. You don't get angry, or if you do, you just swallow it. You don't cry. And so I never learned growing up how to manage and process my emotions. And I like to tell my clients, because this is an area that I help them out a lot with, is I was emotionally constipated. And so in many ways, I'm the Pepto-Bismol for my clients when it comes to emotions. And so I really, I know
tagline under your name,
right?
Pepto-Bismol.
Professional Pepto-Bismol. Take it now. No, but it's true. And it's just like, I to no one's fault or anything. It's just, that's just what it was. And I accept it and I embrace it now more than ever, because it's part of my journey. And so not knowing for many years as an adult, as a well-regarded professional, as a successful professional, how to nurture that dimension of my wellness, that was tough, especially when it impacted, like a few years into our marriage. I'd feel frustrated. I feel angry. And sometimes I didn't even know why. And then I couldn't express it to Liz. And then she would be the recipient of like negative energy from my end.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to give that to her. I wanted to give her the best of me. And so those interactions, those negative interactions, those difficult and challenging interactions were a big impetus for me to want to become better, and when I was in India, I had time to reflect and think, and I was like, oh, Liz, I realized something about myself. There's about a 35-minute period every single day where I feel either frustration, irritability, or impatience. And it's when I'm hungry and there's no food around, or it's when I'm really tired, or it's when I'm exhausted and I don't want to keep doing whatever activities that we're doing, or, there's certain points, right? And so the way that I came to those realizations is I'd ask this very specific question that I ask, that I have my clients ask so that they can build self-awareness is, why do you feel what you feel when you feel it, right? And that brings an incredible level of self-awareness to the emotion that you're feeling in a specific scenario. And then you ask, why is it that you're feeling it? And so I just deepened that relationship. And then I worked in India, just every day, reducing it, 35 minutes, went down to 20 minutes. Okay, today I'm going to just try to not have it. And then there were like 5 minutes where I was like, I'm impatient, and then I was able to, in the last couple of weeks of my last year to live, to just eliminate it. And it was awesome. And that's the proudest thing that I put in my eulogy.
And do you think it was simply just being mindful of its existence that allowed it to dissolve?
I think,
or you really had to dig into the why and deal with that?
I think it was a combination of both. I think where I've been in my journey, because I went all in on my emotional wellness and developing my emotional intelligence a few years back. And so I developed a lot of strategies, but the ultra awareness that came from that meditative practice last year, of just being aware of where you are in that moment, internally and externally, and then how are the two interacting with one another. I feel that was key to, and then also self-acceptance. Because I think before I didn't want to accept that I was flawed, or that I was imperfect in some way, or that I felt frustration or irritability or impatience. I didn't want to accept that about myself. I wanted to think of myself as like a cool, calm, collected person. But I had my moments. I'm not perfect, and I have my moments.
You tell ourselves a slap for thinking that way or something like that. It's that kind of machismo you're talking about that you get brought up with, where
yep.
And it's emotional X-Lax, by the way, not Pepto-Bismol. So.
Yeah, you're right.
Sorry, I've been present with that for a long time. But yeah, it's something I was just learning real recently, though. But if you acknowledge that you're feeling that way, and then you just accept yourself for it, it's okay to feel that way.
Yeah, like self-compassion instead of being like, why am I feeling like that? That's just terrible. There. I'm wasting time being angry, instead of being like, oh, I'm angry.
I see myself. I'm irritated.
It's okay.
I'm annoyed. I'm okay with that for a minute. Okay. And then once you accept it and you acknowledge it, then it's much easier to let it go.
That's right.
In the last 2 weeks, I've thought about it just a little bit different, which I actually learned from my godson, my 5-year-old godson. Yeah, because you learn from them so much.
Yeah.
So basically, I learned from him. His mom, my comadre, was finding ways of explaining something to him, like when we're angry, or she teaches him so much, and she's relating the story back to me. And she says, yeah, so I'm like teaching him about frustration, and when we feel frustration, right? Let's say it was about that. So he's like, oh, okay. So what we have to do is give frustration a big hug, and then just hold on to it, and until it bursts into a heart. And she's like, yes, that's it. Mm-hmm.
That's exactly it. Just give it a hug until it bursts into love.
Yes.
I
So
love that.
I feel that's a lot of, you know, it's like a lot of the time we hear of acceptance or like, letting go or what, like, F that, like embrace, bear hug that shit. You know what I mean? Like just bear hug it and be present with it, right? Just like bring it in instead of like pushing it out.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, I love that.
I had read it, but I hadn't lived it. I'll be honest with you. It's like I read it in Matt Kahn's Whatever Arises, Love That.
Right.
Okay. I read it. And I was like, oh yeah, you know, whatever arises, just love it, you know? Excellent. In reality, no, that didn't happen for me until my last year to live, until last year, you know, and I had read it some time ago, and it was just, I didn't really know how to give that version of me self-acceptance and self-love and self-compassion, you know? But once I did, it was really powerful. It's like, hey, that frustrated, you know, Fernando that comes out every once in a while, I see him, you know, it's like, what's going on? You good? Cool. Me too, man. Let's keep going. The conversation is way different now, you know?
Yeah. Do you think that it's brought, like, I mean, I'm curious, Liz, if you were going to describe Fernando before this last year and Fernando after this last year, seems like there's probably been a lot of changes and vice versa.
Yeah, I still feel like I'm learning about him and what he went through during the last year. Because even though we were literally like next to each other, you know, for a month and a half, 24/7.
24/7.
It's a lot because it's like a lot of spending time together. It's like when you travel, you make micro decisions, you know, everything's a decision, whether you stay in or whether you go eat or whether you know, whatever, go here or there, when, what dates, who's feeling low battery, all this kind of stuff. And I feel like the journey really from before, you know, in 2017 to through 2018, it's a big difference, absolutely big difference. I think that he knows himself a lot better and he's able to embrace himself a lot better.
And what does that do? Yeah, what does that do for your relationship?
Oh man, miracles. Miracles, because it's like, you know, I talk about like, you know, our relationship's 50%, right? Like I take care of my 50%. Anything that we say goes on this invisible table, and it's just being all put there, right? And I don't have to pick anything up or take it personal, right? I just like look at it and I'm like, oh, does this serve me? Okay, I'm gonna take this one, but not that one, because now you can keep that one. You know, because it's rude or hurtful or disrespectful,
or doesn't deal with you,
or just doesn't deal with me at all, because the issue wasn't with me, right? It was with his past or whatever. So I feel like now he's able to really own what's on his table, you know, and what's on his side of the table, his 50%. And I'm doing a much better job of owning my own, right? Because I grow alongside. So I'm like, yay. So we both get to grow and learn.
Sam wishes I left my shit on the table, but I leave it mostly on the floor.
It's true. In the living room.
It's invisible. It's an invisible table.
It's a figurative one. You know what? One thing that I would also, you know, tell your listeners, we use a couple strategies that have been really helpful too. So the first one is, sometimes we're really tired, right? We have all kinds of stuff going on. We have meetings, we have, you know, we're setting up calls and we're sending emails and we're going here, we're going there. We have all kinds of projects going on. But at the end of the day, when we meet up, it's important to connect and check in, right? But if the person really wants to talk about something and the other person is not ready to receive it, that used to create tension with us. And so we became really good at telling each other, do you want active listening or attentive listening? And attentive is literally just like, you're just going to do a brain dump of whatever it is that you want to talk about because you feel upset and you want your partner to hear you out. That's just attentive. You just want me to like listen to you. And so that one is more chill. Doesn't require as much as like full presence. Even if you're a little bit tired, I feel like I can still do that.
Like venting, right?
Like venting. You just want to vent and you want somebody else to hear you out. Great. Active is like, where's my pad? Where's my pencil? That's what the kind of listening you want. All right, you want some feedback. Let's go. I'm listening. I'm here. I'm fully present. you know, my lawyer instincts are up, you know, let's do it. And so, and so that one is heavier. And that one, we need to like talk about when to have that. And so we become a lot better about telling each other, hey, do you want attentive, just like more chill, like passive listening? I'm going to listen to you, might not catch it 100%, but I'm going to do my best. Or do you want active, where 110%, I'm listening to everything you're saying, I'm thinking about, you know, strategies to support you, or really act as your soundboard, right? Sure. And then the other one too, that we've become a lot better at, and we're still, you know, becoming better at, is once one of us starts getting frustrated or upset, either because, you know, we're tired or we're fatigued or we went through a tough day, and we start feeling that come up, and we start, you know, going, and you start barking at each other a lot louder. That used to be before, right? Now it just go up, no, pause, and we just pause.
Yeah.
Little timeout.
Yeah, self timeout. And it's a self pause, and you just walk away and do your thing. And then once you manage and process and work through whatever, you know, fatigue or emotions, then you just come back, and after some time, just like, okay, unpause. Let's connect. Let me tell you what I was going through. And then that's been helpful for us.
Yeah, and I'll add that that's super important, because you pause before you get mad.
Yeah.
Pause before all the trigger, right? The trigger happens, and then boom, 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 boom. It's like this escalation, this whole sequence of events happen, of feelings and emotions that happen from within that just trigger, right? So I'm smart enough, or I'm aware enough, right? I've faced the situation enough times with awareness that I'm like, oh, I know what that is. Okay, so it's that thing, but in a different way. He's just going to say a different thing for it, right? Or we're going to put a different thing on the floor now. And now, like, and I'm going to get upset about that, right? So just say, pause, okay. Like, before I go to the upsetness, and gives me an opportunity to just stop right there, walk away, whatever, take a glass of water. And when I unpause, and we talk about it.
That's brilliant. We talk about timeouts in our book, and I take them.
Good.
I have a pretty fiery temper, but I don't know. Honestly, I don't think I've had enough self-awareness to know that I'm annoyed until I'm about to blow. Honestly, like until just recently, where I you know, like, I don't know, it was just a couple days ago, and I was like,
a week ago. Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah,
we were recording our podcast when we moved our whole studio around, and I was like,
oh, it was Saturday.
I started getting like,
it was Saturday, 4 days ago.
I didn't blow. I was like, I got to take a time out. So that gave me, I was glad that I recognized it, although I think it was already pretty visible though.
Well, I just told her, I was like, you seem really, really, really irritable and annoyed.
I am. I need to take a time out.
So I was like, why don't you spend some time? I'm just going to go. I went and did something on my own and told her to work on her music or whatever she likes to do that kind of gets her out of that usually.
I actually went and made a snowman, and it was awesome.
Did you really? That's awesome.
Something that I was like, what's going to bring me joy right now? Because honestly, if I get too spiraled down, the best thing I can do is like, what could make me happy? What could I go do that's going to really light me up? And honestly, I made a snowman, and I was like, I'm good. Everything's fine. I'm back to my happy, bubbly self.
It was a creepy snowman, though. If she hadn't told me she made it, I would have called the cops. They're like,
I tried to make eyelashes, and it didn't. Like, my daughter took creepy pictures of it, but anyway.
That's funny.
Made like the
so real quick, I have a couple questions that I want to get in before we run out of time. One, tell us real fast, each of you, where did you go when you were in India? Did you hit all the big cities like Tokyo, Manila, Saigon?
No. We went to it was Mexico City, Cancun, and Guadalajara.
Yeah.
In Merida. In India, and tell me if I forget any. We started out in Delhi. From Delhi, we went to Agra to see the Taj Mahal, which is beautiful. That's just, you know.
That's your picture, is it? Is that the Taj Mahal that you guys sent the picture that will be with this episode?
So no, that one is in Delhi.
Okay.
That one is but it's a similar structure. Yeah.
Okay.
And so then we went to Jaipur. We ended up going to Pune, and then Goa, and Mumbai. And Mumbai is really nice. It's another big city right next to the water. And in Pune, that was like a small city, but we went to like full day meditation retreat. And that was really neat.
Yeah.
Like to be in silence for like hours and hours and hours on end. That's powerful. And I'd never done that in my life. That's when I really started seeing the interaction, between body, mind, spirit, and ego, because my hips were hurting and my body was having a fit. It was like, oh, hell no, this is too much. And my mind was like, see, spirit, you want to be all out here doing your thing and everything, but no, we got to stop this right now. It's been 14 hours, no more. All right. What's that?
That's what my mind tells me. You can't even cross your legs right. What are you doing?
Yeah. And I hope people don't judge us because, I have these conversations in my head, and I think most of us do. I have more than one voice in my head usually going on.
Everybody. That's a human thing. And if they don't hear the voices, then that's going to be a problem probably.
That's true.
That's no self-awareness right there if they can't hear the voices in there.
Yeah, no, they're in there. And so it was just kind of like, I noticed that, and so that was a good trip there. And then we ended up finishing in Rishikesh, which is a very, very, very powerful and spiritual place. Oh, and Sankisa.
Liz, get closer to the mic. What?
We went to Sankisa, where we saw the Dalai Lama, in Lucknow, which is like a super friendly city in India. The most, like, they call it like the most friendly city in India.
Oh, neat. Awesome. Okay. Last thing, and we were supposed to talk a lot more about this, but we didn't. We talked a little bit about it in your intro, but tell us about, so the 2019, Nando, has like another iMater conference coming up. Tell us a little bit about iMater.
Yes, definitely. So the iMatter Now conference is focused on promoting wellness and promoting health, predominantly in the legal profession, but because it's very applicable to other professions and entrepreneurship and a lot of different professional fields.
If a lawyer, anybody can.
What's that?
If a lawyer can do it, anybody can.
Exactly. But I started iMatter Now because I saw there was like a real lack of support for other fellow colleagues. And we tend to have in the legal profession, unfortunately, some of the highest rates of depression, anxiety, stress, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, and suicide. And I wanted to do something about it. I wanted to really make a change in the profession, and I wanted to bring wellness to the profession in a way that it had never been seen before. And so the 2019 iMatter Now conference brings together a whole slew of professionals who really care about improving their wellness. What's the word that you use in your book at the beginning, where endeavor, right? Yeah. Endeavor is a key word. And so here everybody's endeavoring to just improve and be a better version of themselves. And the 2019 iMatter Now conference is really focused on that. And so I'm going to be doing a workshop on emotional intelligence and how that can really improve your wellness, right? And we're going to have another guest who is going to be, several other guests, but I'm also excited that you both will be there to help.
Excited.
Yes. I'm super stoked because you're going to be just really helping folks navigate the waters of relationships, with loved ones, and, on a partner level, but also just relationships, in general. And I think what you are teaching others in your book, that all the tips in Bigger Love, I think a lot of folks in this field and everybody that comes to the conference can really benefit from it. So, we're really stoked to have you there, and we look forward to meeting you in person. So that's a little bit about the conference that iMatter Now.
Yeah, we're super excited to come. I do believe that having a healthy relationship, if you have an unhealthy relationship, I think it's very difficult to find joy and happiness. And take care of yourself. I think those things become more difficult if your relationship is struggling. So hopefully we can.
Well, it's a foundation, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, your theme is really lead with love. And so
yeah,
I'm all about it.
Yeah, man.
Bring it on. You guys, thank you so much. I mean, we're honored that you would come on our podcast. Thank you for sharing your story so openly and lovingly and warmly and honestly. It's been awesome.
Yeah, we really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having us on, and keep up the awesome work.
Yeah.
Ditto, by the way.
All right. Thank you.